Gentlemen, first of all, good afternoon. I appreciate you all coming out and taking time out of your schedule. I know oftentimes you all have things that you can be doing during lunch. So I appreciate you taking time out to eat lunch here with us today. And feel free to do that as we sit together and have a dialogue over this next hour. My name is Levon Esters. I'm the director of the MAP program, Mentoring at Purdue, and the acronym is MAP. And I'm being assisted today by four great people who work on the MAP team. Monty Martin here on my left, he's a master's student of mine. Raise your hand, Monty. Then we have Arminda Boyer, who's an undergraduate here doing some of the video recording. We have Brittany Brown, a doctoral student in the back, second-year doctoral student, who's also a student of mine. And then Tori Crops, master's student, no, PhD, sorry, I apologize, a PhD student, also one of my students as well, so it's great to work with them. This would not occur without their help. So today, I appreciate you all coming out for today's event, today's workshop, titled Strategies for Building and Maintaining Your Mentoring Network. And the goal of this workshop, ladies and gentlemen, is for students and faculty to share their perspectives on how to establish and maintain effective advisee mentoring relationships. In this workshop, we will outline important components, or they will, right? They will outline important components of a mentoring partnership and help you all identify strategies for building a healthy and productive relationship with your mentor and mentee. And so, as has always been the goal, I always tell this to individuals, at the end of the day, the goal of the MAP program is to enhance the mentoring relationships among faculty, staff, and students in the College of Ag, but also across university. And so all of our programs are open to anyone who wants to attend. So hopefully once you leave and disperse across your respective departments, you share the word and let people know about what you learned today and encourage them to come to our future events. And at the end of today's event, Amonte, another member of our MAP team, will share with you next month's event, which is we have a really great guest coming in next month. So I want to stop there. Brittany Brown is going to be the one moderating today's panel, and so I'm going to step off to the side and let her get started. So appreciate you being here today.
Well, as Dr. Esther said, good afternoon to everybody. Thanks for coming. I know that an hour can pass by really quickly, so we'll go ahead and get started. I'd like to start just by having the pairs introduce themselves. We thought it'd be a really good idea to have a mentor and a mentee pair, because oftentimes we have faculty members or students, but we often don't have them together, and so we thought it'd be a nice dynamic conversation to have pairs here that will hopefully give you some insight on how you can effectively work with your mentor as well. So if we'll start here with Dr. Evans, if you guys could both introduce yourselves, talk a little bit about how you establish your mentoring relationship, and we'll move down the table. I'll have a few questions, and then we'll open it up for the audience so you guys can ask questions. So you can go ahead, Dr. Evans.
Okay, what do you want in my introduction? Just whatever I want to say.
Yes, ma'am. Free reign.
Okay, you know, I used to teach for 50 minutes, so don't give me free reign. I am Dr. Zanetti Evans. As of January the 5th, I had a new title, so it changes the dynamic of our relationship. But I'm currently serving as the director of the Science Diversity Office. Prior to that, I was the director of multicultural science programs and the associate director of the Science Diversity Office, and that's how I call him Bone, but I'll try to say Reggie today since we're in a formal setting. But that's how we established our relationship. So part of my job as the director of multicultural science programs is to reach out to all of the multicultural students that have identified as such and make sure they're navigating the terrain outside of the classroom and dealing with issues inside of the classroom. So that's the way we first were introduced, and since then our relationship has gone through, our mentoring relationship has gone through twists and turns, you know, from the initial things you do as a first-year student, making sure you're getting the right advisor, to now more of personal issues. So I think that's an important component of having a mentoring relationship, having those relationships that you can talk about the academic side, but also those things that are occurring outside of the academic side that can influence how well you handle issues in the academic setting. So with that, I'll pass it off to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Reginald Key. I'm a sixth-year PhD student in the math department. As Dr. Evans said, I'm a member of the multicultural sciences program. I remember my first week here in the math department orientation, looking at my packet and had a letter saying, "I'm glad that you can make it to lunch on Tuesday." And I'm like, "What lunch is this?" And it was Dr. Evans had scooped up the first-year students and brought us in for a lunch and an introduction and let us know like the benefits of the multicultural sciences programs. And she definitely kept tabs on us over the years. Like she was saying, it's good to often have mentors in your department, but also outside of your department. So, somebody you can go to and talk to about, personal life, finances, family drama, relationships, the whole nine. So Dr. Evans has definitely been a good resource.
And I cook, and he likes to eat. So
Yeah,
that's another thing.
works out really well.
Hi, my name is Ari. I'm a second-year PhD student in the Interdisciplinary Life Sciences program in the Comparative Pathobiology department. And I found Dr. Jones Hall when I was looking for advisors to rotate in their labs my first year. And so I went around and did a lot of interviewing. And while I was interviewing, I was focused not only on like the research that was going on in the lab, but the kind of relationship that the professor was expecting to have with their graduate students, because I knew that I would work better if I had a mentoring relationship with my advisor instead of just a strictly academic relationship with them. So that was something that I was looking for coming into it, and it's worked out really well so far.
She has to say that since I'm sitting right here. I'm Dr. Yava Jones Hall. I'm an assistant professor of veterinary pathology in the veterinary school. We do have a veterinary school. Some people don't know about it, but it's right across the street, actually. And as Ari said, we originally met when she rotated through my laboratory in the post program. And I also was looking for a student who I could pair well with personality-wise, as well as a student who I felt would succeed in the program. I tend to be sort of hands-off, and I'm not really a micromanager, so I need a student that's self-motivated and sort of a self-starter and can get things done with very little oversight. So I met Ari, and I thought that she definitely fit that bill, and we have a really good working relationship as well as a personal relationship. She house sits for me when I'm out of town. I have a large dog and a cat that she waits for me. So we have a professional relationship, but also a personal relationship. And I think that I personally always enjoy mentoring people who I identify with that are similar to me. So she's an African American female in the sciences, and so I feel like it's important for me to definitely bring forward other female African American scientists in the STEM program, in the STEM discipline.
Okay, so you guys have touched on some of the things. That's why we have a really long list of questions. But can you tell me about like some goals you guys might set in your relationship? Like I know with Dr. Estes and he's real big on agendas and goals and stuff like that. And so although we have an informal relationship, we also have one that is very goal oriented, and he really stays on top of making sure that I meet those goals. Do you guys set goals for your relationships, and how do you go about kind of bouncing those ideas off of each other to make sure that you meet your academic goals, but also in trying to do that, you're also sane, right? You also come out and you're not a crazy person after meeting those goals. Can you guys talk about that a little bit?
Now, depending on how you define crazy, but I think those for us, because I'm not his direct academic advisor, it's based on what's going on with him at that particular time. So I remember when he was going through his qualifying exams and prelim exams, we sat down and talked about, okay, these are the dates that the exams will be, or the dates that you have to turn them in. So let's backtrack it from now to say how many hours this week we're going to put into doing this, how many hours the next week, and as time gets closer and closer, making sure you increase those. Would you say that was correct?
Yeah, definitely. Around my prelim exam, yeah. We met a lot and helped me, allot my time and make a schedule. Because time management is something that I'm never great with. It's something I'm definitely still working on. So it's good to have somebody who can help me work on that area.
And we had some, it was a lot of push and pull. A lot of my foot hitting his behind because it was, he would say one thing and then when that didn't happen, so I was not afraid to hold him to the fire to say, this is the agreement that we had. So if you come back in my office the next week and you're not there, then it's not going to be a good situation. So we had that kind of relationship where I can tell him, I'm not pleased with the progress that you're making. I'm very pleased with the progress you're making. So, and he didn't, take it personally because in the end, it was going to benefit him. So I'm happy that, whereas Yava, Dr. Jones Hall mentioned working with females, I actually like working with males better. I do like working with females, don't get me wrong, but I like working with better because sometimes I can be a little brash, harsh, and so that can elicit in some individuals, it can elicit, that flow from the ducts in your eyes. And so I don't have that issue in dealing with Reginald with that because I can tell him what's on, and he understands, and I don't have to, worry about sugarcoating it. Because if I'm, on the job, then I sometimes just need to be straight to the point, and so I can do that in this relationship that we've built, and everybody walks away, no harm, no foul.
So with the Pulse program is very structured. So RA kind of has a structured relationship level. So with the Pulse program, she has a lot of things she has to meet, a meeting she has to go to, things that have to be done on certain dates and by certain times, and that's all through the Pulse program, and they kind of make sure that gets done on that end. With us, I'm organized and very structured as well, but again, I don't like to micromanage, so I do utilize emails a lot. So I like to give her, do A, B, C, D, and then when we meet, we have weekly meetings. I expect feedback and progress on those things that we've discussed. So I don't go into live every day and say, are you doing this? Have you done this? But I do give her things that I expect to be done within whatever time frame, and then she reports back to me on a weekly basis on how she's achieving that. She also has another mentor who's in a different department who's like a co-chair of her committee, and we have different styles. but we both want her to succeed and work hard to make sure she gets everything done in a timely fashion and keeps moving forward and keeps progressing in her program and is not stagnant.
I don't have anything to say.
Can I pose a question if you don't mind? So you have two mentors with two different styles. How do you deal with that when they're conflicting? Not that not trying to put you on the spot.
My other mentoring relationship is, I would say, is more academic than my relationship with Dr. Jones Hall. So I guess my expectation from that is a little bit different. And so when I am struggling with something or frustrated, I know, I just know who I can and can't go to with certain things. And so, I'm glad that I have both because I can field my anxiety either way.
And that's why I wanted to ask that question, because I think as I've gone through both my career as a graduate student, my career of being starting off as a faculty member in biology and now transitioning to administration, I've had to have different mentors for different things. And I think it's important as you're at every point in your life, you have mentors that can help you along different avenues. So the mentor that I used to help me to become a better educator in the classroom is not the person that I would talk to about being a better administrator. So I think as you are traversing this terrain, it's important to have mentors that can focus on the academics, but you also need to have mentors that can focus on the personal things that you're trying to do. I still meet with my mentors, not as much now with the new job, but we still have that communication trying to help me get to that next level, whatever that happens to be in my life. So I think as you're going through this, while your advisor is going to be the main person you have on your research, it could be one of the members of your committee. It could be someone that you meet at the Angela Davis event tonight, you're sitting next to somebody and start up a relationship. So you just never know where you're going to have the opportunity to get a new mentor. And I think it's important. One of my mentors I met on a flight to Atlanta. And so we were sitting next to each other, and they're in administration at a different university. We started a conversation, and so most of our conversation is either by telephone or via email. But I think that's an important piece of that puzzle, to make sure all of your needs are being met by your mentors, and identifying, you have to, as an individual, identify what those needs are, and then identify the people that can help you get to that end result, whatever that happens to be.
For the mentors specifically, can you talk a little bit about maybe your own experience as you were matriculating, and the good or bad mentoring experiences that you had, and how that kind of shapes how you serve your students and how you work with your mentees?
Well, that kind of transitions from what Zanetti was saying. I totally agree that you have to have different mentors for different things. And even though I am a mentor now, and so is Ari, she's also a mentor now, I still also have mentors. And as I've developed our mentor-mentee relationships, they've changed. And I wouldn't say any of them have been bad, but as Ari said, I've learned what to get from what person, and not to expect to get everything I need from one person. And one thing that I found is very important, being a URM individual, is having an ally. So it's great to have a mentor who looks like you, and who identifies like whatever your self-identifier is, especially if you're underrepresented in whatever fashion. But it's good also to have an ally, a person who is from the majority population, who can speak on your behalf. For example, in promotion and tenure meetings, that first goes to all of the tenured faculty in your department. And as a minority female, there really aren't any other tenured African American females in my department. So I need a majority person to be my ally in that meeting, to speak on my behalf and to champion for me, and also to help me learn things that I might not know, and other minorities might not know. So they can just give me an inside track and inside information on the tenure process. And so I have professional mentors who are allies and who are like me, and also personal mentors. And again, those have changed as I've transitioned from a student to a faculty member. And I try to make all relationships work. It's important not to burn bridges. So even if you feel like, if Ari felt like our personal relationship wasn't necessarily going well, it would be up to her and up to me to make sure our professional relationship still went well, and she still met all the goals that she needed to meet to graduate on time. So she shouldn't just quit the program and fall out with me, because she could need me in the future, or I could perhaps ruin her career in the future if we did develop a negative relationship. So even if you feel like things are not going well, I think it's important to just decide what you can get positively from that particular person, and take that, and then find someone else to give you the other things that you might need.
Okay, I forgot the question. She said so many good things. I was going to comment on each one of those.
How has your own mentoring experience influenced how your mentorships have?
Okay. So I think for me, starting off, I'll have to take you back. I grew up in a single-parent household, and so, and at the time, my mother had not gone on to college. So in order for me to get to college, I needed to find some mentors who had transitioned in that avenue, and so she helped me to find, some of her friends that had gone to college. And it was really interesting because my mother then started going back to college when I was in high school. I should say we started going to college then, because I wrote a lot of her papers when she was in college. We found one of them when I was home last time. It was hilarious. But anyway, so I could actually turn back and mentor my mother about this college experience. But I think at every step or every juncture, I've had different mentors. I had one mentor when I was an undergrad that connected to me. And I didn't connect back with them, but they were, it was someone in a position of power, and they kept saying, oh, yes, this is my new mentee, and I'll be like, because I didn't really like the person, and so I had to find someone else to get me to say, how do I get rid of this person? I don't know what gave them the idea that I was going to be the mentee. And so the lesson I learned from that was to talk to individuals and not just assume because they're meeting with me that they want to establish a mentor-mentee relationship. So that was one of the lessons I learned from that. And with the undergraduates, I don't do it so much with the graduate students, but with the undergraduate students, I have a mentor-mentee contract that we both have to sign. So we come up with those things that we're hoping to gain out of this relationship and those boundaries that neither one of us are willing to cross. So because I think sometimes with the undergrads, because I sign on to be a mentor, they'll come to me today and say, I need a letter of recommendation tomorrow. So that's one of the things I put in that mentor-mentee contract, that you cannot expect me to produce a letter of recommendation letter within a two-day framework. So there are things that I've learned along the way, making sure that students understand that this is a two-way street. And if at any point either one of us wants to disconnect, we have that right to disconnect. No explanation needed, and neither one of us will then badmouth the other person saying, she got on my nerves, or she was all up in my business, or whatever. So we make sure that we have that established in the relationship early on, and that for me is important. So if you're so that contract for me with undergraduates is much more important than it is with the graduate students, because I think the graduate students have that end goal always in mind, whether it's the master's degree or the PhD. So they realize that the things we're doing are really trying to help them get there. I think I learned from my last mentor, my PhD advisor was a male, and he said very early on in the game, we could talk about everything except female issues. So, so he put that on the table. Don't come in here talking about your female issues, And so, he said right out, I don't want to hear if you're cramping. I can't deal with that. And so I said, okay, I couldn't talk to him about that. So, I found some other ladies in the department that if I wanted to talk about that, we could talk about those issues. But, and so then I put, in my relationship with Reginald, there's, nothing that's off the table. So we could talk about everything from family, like you said, relationships, finances. Our best conversations are about finances and preparing for the future. So there, all those things when he, was looking at getting a car when he had a car accident. So all of those things we have incorporated as being fair game in the relationship. We talk some math. I mean, he's talking way over my head, but I listen. So we can have those conversations, but it's more about the personal. So I think when the lessons I've learned from my mentors is to find out what you want to get out of this relationship. So I ask the people that before I go into it. And I am, while I like to think on a lot of levels, I am Superwoman. I know that my cape is getting a little tight as we go through the schematic. So I tell people I'm not going to be able to help you in that arena. So you need to find somebody else. So you need to make sure as you're getting in these mentor-mentee relationships that those people that you're entering with, they can give you exactly what you need. And so, this person that hooked onto me in my undergraduate, there was nothing that this person could give me. And so that's why I didn't know why she was calling it a mentor-mentee relationship, because there was nothing I can gain from hanging out with this person. So that's I think that answers the question, or maybe not.
Are we allowed to ask a follow-up question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I was just wondering, how do you establish initially, if you're at a new place or a transition in your life, how do you sort of seek out those mentors, and when is the appropriate time to ask, hey, can you mentor me, or should you ask, or just keep meeting and keep the dialogue, because I don't know, when do you think it's appropriate? Or
I personally don't think that you should try to jump into a mentor-mentee relationship as soon as you get to a new position in your life. I think it's important to, kind of hang back a while and figure out who's going to be most beneficial to you in whatever you're looking for. And then it's definitely appropriate to talk to that person and see if they're willing to extend to you what you're desiring, and be clear about what you need, and they should hopefully be clear about what they're able to give you. And then, if you're transitioning, usually there's not a complete break from your past situation. So hopefully you can talk to someone at your past institution or wherever and ask them to help you kind of see about who might be a good fit for you. And then you don't have to take their advice, but that could put you on the right track.
I agree with Yava on that. I think a lot of mentoring relationships, some of them just happen by chance. And you really get to know a person by sitting back and seeing what it is they do, or talking to other people that interact with them. One of my mentors, who's since retired from Purdue, I met them because we served on a committee together, and this person was head of that committee and was just always right on point, asking the right questions. And I was in awe, like, wow. And so then that person had a search committee going on in their office and asked me to chair that search committee, and it was a wonderful end for me. So as we sat down to meet and to talk about this search, then after the search was over, and I went to the person and asked, you want to give me a grade? He was like, you did everything so exceptionally. I was like, well, I kind of model what you did in that other thing. So I was thinking you have some other tricks up your sleeves that you can show me. And he was like, I would be happy to meet with you. And he just started rattling on. I was like, ooh, okay. So I think it is important you have to know what it is you see in that person that you want to emulate, right? I don't like the word role model, but there are some lessons from their lived experiences that they have, and it's so that you don't, I'm old school, so I don't always have to go through it myself. If somebody else has gone through it and I can learn from their lessons, then I'm okay with doing that. And that to me is what a mentor is. It allows you to have a lived experience without actually being in that situation, so they can share that knowledge. And so if you find yourself in there, you know the out, because every situation is going to be different, but you can take with you and value those lessons that they have learned. Good question.
And I have another question for you, Dr. Evans, because you said that you do not like to, establish the mentor-mentee role if there's nothing you can get out of it. So as a mentor, what should you expect from a mentor-mentee relationship if you're kind of the one passing on the knowledge to a mentee? What do you expect from a mentee?
And it depends on where they are in their lives, right? So I have, right now I have 2 high school students in my hometown. I was home for a funeral in November, and I went to speak at my old high school, and I met 2 young ladies there who are trying to go to college. They are first-generation college students, or they will be first-generation college students. So I'm not expecting, I don't go into that with any expectations. I go in that with anything that I can help them with is going to be better than if I had not been in that position, right? So with some folks, I can, with this guy, I expect him to get a PhD. It's no other thing coming out of there, right? So anything less than that is going to be some issues. So, but with these high school students, I don't have any expectation right now, because what I'm expecting is for them to gain something more than they would have had I not crossed paths with them. In talking with these young ladies, and I one of the things I had to do, and I had to get their permission, is to talk to their parents, because here I am, a strange woman. They don't know me from Adam, and these are young ladies. So I said, is it okay for me to talk to your child about this? And one of the mothers said to me, you can talk to her about college all day, but we ain't gonna be able to afford it, And I said, well, there are ways that we can get her there. She goes, oh. So now the mother and I have conversations before I talk to the daughter about what she's looking to do and how we can, look for those financial aid opportunities. And she was like, I want to come to Purdue with you. I was like, oh no, you need to be in state, sweetie. That's part of the equation here. Thinking about college, you need to be in state. So it again depends on how your paths are interacting with these individuals for you to set those goals. So you have to ask questions. So I ask, in those informal settings when you're meeting people, I'm watching, I'm asking the questions, I'm seeing how they interact with other people. So, one of the students, what I noticed with her, when she was really, really stressed out, she was snapping at everybody. So we had to figure out what got her to that point of stress that then her personality would change around everybody. Because everybody was like, don't go around her today, she's gonna be snapping. And and that's what I told her, that's not the image that you want to display with people. Because there are going to be some days when you're stressed, That's most days, right? Yeah, but you have to handle that and you have to deal with that and you can't project that onto other people. And so it was really funny. We were meeting with some of her friends and they were like, Dr. Evans, she's changing. She's snapping at us every time she, and we didn't say anything because that's her personal. She wanted to share that she's working on those issues. That was for her to share, not for me to say anything. I was like, well, good for her. Girl, you handle your business, And so then later when it's just the two of us, I could say, I'm so proud of you that other people are now seeing the issue that you knew you had but you wouldn't deal with. And so for me, it was coming to her saying, this is what everybody's saying about you. This is not a good look, right? So my expectations for her were to own that she had something that was not a positive outcome, and if she wanted to change it, then she had to invest in changing that.
The question is, how long this mentor and mentee relationship last, and also how many students you work with simultaneously?
You want to start?
They can last from a short period of time to a lifetime. Depends on what you need from that particular mentor. So if you just need help with writing a manuscript, then it might be a short relationship. If you need help getting through your PhD program on a personal or professional level, it may be a 5 or 6 year relationship. If you have a personal mentor, it might be a lifetime relationship. So it depends on what kind of what you have with that person. And I think that as far as how many students you have at a time, I tend to not have very many because well, I tend to not have very many. But I think it's up to the mentor to decide what they can handle and not to overextend themselves so that they can give exactly what they promised to each student. So I shouldn't take on 6 students and tell all 6 of them I can do this, this, and this if I know I can't. So whatever that person decides they're able to do.
So my role is a little different because I'm not in the academic setting. So it's part of my job, if you will. So I have a plethora. But the students, and Reggie can attest to this, I tell the students, I need you to send me as much detail when you have free time as possible, because he'll just keep dropping by the office and just trying to drop by, and that's not going to work. That is just, he's going to drop by to an empty office. So that's not going to work. So I have a ton, but in my relationships with students, I'm not having the weekly meetings like the two on the other end. We're having the as we need to meetings to make sure you're still on track to get to where you need to be. So I try to pack in as much in a conversation. So we'll have a conversation that'll start off on, what he's doing to start applying for jobs, to finances, to this, to that, all in one setting, and then he goes away with a list of things to do. And like, Yava said, I don't have time to manage you and manage me. So the next time we meet, all of these things should be met in the sentence. So if there's a hitch along the way, let's talk about that hitch so we can move it out of the way and get to the end result. So, yeah, so, and I've had mentor-mentee relationships that, that were in place because we worked at Purdue. When that one person left Purdue, we decided then to end our relationship because it was trying to help me navigate the terrain at Purdue. So you're not at Purdue anymore. While I still talk to the person about, X, Y, Z, they can say, watch out for this person. They're not always what they seem on the surface. But then, they are not here with the new regime, if you will, to help me know who's really in and who's really out of that situation. Good question.
If you guys have questions, if you could write them down real quick. I'm going to ask a couple questions to the mentees, though. One question I have in particular is that being a student sometimes you can be very intimidated, even by somebody who is called your mentor, because essentially they have the degree that you're seeking, right? Or sometimes they have strong personalities or whatever the case may be. So can you guys talk a little bit about some challenges that you've had, or on situations where maybe you offered some feedback to your mentor on how to make your relationship a little bit better, or work better, for you as well? Because that can be kind of a scary and hard thing to do. So can you guys talk about that a little bit?
Y'all need us to step out of the room.
I don't know. I haven't had too many issues with working with my mentors. I mean, me and my research advisor have had kind of just like, I've had to change my project a couple times. So, I mean, that can be kind of uncomfortable situation. They suggest you work on something and you don't really care too much about it. And,
So how'd you tell them that?
I mean, yeah, just,
Not like you can say if it's, they tell you to work on a project.
yeah, just,
Work on a project.
just say, you know.
I heard about it, but
Yeah, she heard the real story, but when, I mean, talking to him is, you know, just, I guess I would make suggestions on, you know, other things that I was interested in, and just kind of bring up other things that, you know, hey, I was reading this article, I thought this was really cool, what do you think about this? Do you think that we can maybe touch on this at some point? Versus just, no, I'm not really trying to do this, but.
All right, do you have any insight on that? And it doesn't have to specifically be about your mentors that are here. It can be any situation.
Well, my other mentor that I currently have, that is more academic. I'm still trying to like navigate this part of our relationship really, because I rotated in that lab as well right after I rotated in Dr. Jones's lab, and her expectations were just like handed down, and we didn't really like talk on a regular basis, so she knew like how I was doing. So at the end of the time frame, like I didn't have everything done that she was expecting me to have done, but it wasn't for lack of effort, because I didn't go to class sometimes, so I could use that time where I had class to like work on what I was supposed to work on, just so I could have everything done, because I didn't want to have to go to her and be like, well, I didn't finish that. But then I struggled also on the class front then, because that's time that I should have been spent studying that I didn't get to spend. And so I had to like have a conversation and be like I can't, the way this just happened is not, like I can't do this going forward. So now we meet more frequently than we did then. And so if I have a problem, I just have to be really forthcoming with the fact that I know you expect me to have this, but this is happening and I don't know like how to do that. And because I can't spend like all of my time worrying about what they're going to say if I don't finish it. And so like that's, I mean, still a work in progress, but I mean, it's something that you have to do, I guess. And it's been super helpful for me to own my own effort, like, and just be upfront with it. Like, because if I feel like I've been working like very hard on this and giving my 100% and something's not working, like I have to be okay with telling her that and not just assume that she thinks that I wasn't working, so I must not have been working. So.
Another question that I have for the mentees, how have your relationships kind of helped you serve as better peer mentors for other people? Because oftentimes if we decide we can't talk to an adult, so to speak, right, we're all adults, but and we end up having to talk to friends or people in our peer groups, how have your relationships with your mentors here or other kind of mentors that are in elevated positions, has it helped you to navigate your peer mentoring relationships with friends and maybe other students?
One of my favorite things about Dr. Evans is like she has all those Southern sayings, and I mean they make sense in so many different scenarios. So I mean, just passing along advice, especially to younger grad students that I've received from her, I think helps a lot. And you know, telling especially science grad students like, hey, are you going to these multicultural sciences events? Because a lot of times, I mean, people can get busy and then they're not making the meetings, and you know, when she takes us out to the dining halls and stuff, they're, you know, I definitely made that a priority my first couple of years. And, you know, I tell other people to do the same thing, because, I mean, you can get a lot out of the relationship. And you got to make sure that, you know, you're actively participating as a mentee.
With me, I spend most of my time in the lab, so I don't really talk to people. But
you see people.
yeah, I do see people on occasion. But this past summer, I did have to mentor a summer student that was working with me, and so my relationship with my mentor kind of helped me navigate how my own personal mentoring style. And I am the kind of person where I will get like super invested in everything about you, but almost to a fault though. And Dr. Jones doesn't do that. Like, she has a very she's very balanced, so like she can still like help me with what I need to do, but she's still gonna like have her life too. And so I needed, like, it was definitely an adjustment period when I had to learn how to effectively be able to be a mentor for somebody else, but not let like every little thing that goes wrong in their life like consume everything that I also need to do. So that's been helpful.
I think that was a good example of a mentee, the student getting different things from different people, because I definitely was not willing to, for that student, be the personal mentor that she needed, and Ari was, and so Ari definitely provided a lot more personal as well as professional mentoring. But I also had to talk to Ari about stepping back. Like, you're not responsible for everything that happens in her life. And she tends to be more soft-hearted, and I tend to be more, listen.
Real world 101, baby.
So, yeah.
Okay, I think you have a question.
Yeah, we have a group of visiting Afghani scholars with us today. And what advice would you have for these new beginning faculty members, or in institutions where they may not have a consistent mentor-mentee relationship? What suggestions would you have for them to implement these kind of relationships at their universities?
Let's start.
First, I've been to Afghanistan. So I would say that, again, the first thing I mentioned, one is to have an ally. So find someone that can be your champion and can help you navigate from purely a professional standpoint, and kind of clue you into the things that are not necessarily written on paper. And two, to find someone that you identify with personally, that's within your field, hopefully, and also maybe even personally that's outside of your field, because you need some personal connection in order to survive in an environment that you're not accustomed to being into, because loneliness and isolation can strongly impact your ability to succeed professionally. So I think it's very important to stay connected to your culture and the people that you identify with on a personal level, and to find someone within your department or within your field that can help you professionally. So like Zanetti said, if you see somebody that's doing something, publishing or presenting in a way that you agree with or that you aspire to be like, then it's perfectly acceptable to approach that person and ask them to be your mentor. Maybe for something specific, like you have an upcoming talk at a meeting, and ask them to go over the talk with you and to go over your slides with you. Or maybe it's even broader than that, to ask them to mentor you professionally throughout the time that you're here at Purdue.
And I think it's a point that Yava mentioned earlier that I wanted to piggyback here. It's important too, as you're in new terrain, you're not going to know who's the good people and the bad people. Not necessarily the bad people, but the people that you don't want to affiliate with. So I think in that transition period, it's important to have those relationships that you formed previously to find out, because we are all 3 degrees separated. So to find out who in your previous life might know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody at your current institution that they would recommend as a good person for you to interact with. So I think you have to use those resources that you have, whether you meet people at meetings and you find out who knows, do you know this person, do you know this person? And so those are going to be the people that you'll have to rely on to help you find the allies that you need to form at your new institution. So for instance, my major professor he's retired from Purdue, but he still lives in the Lafayette area. So I still, we exchange cards for birthdays and holidays, and then he will call me if there's someone, new in the community, a new person, African American in the community that he's met. He will call me to say, can I get you to introduce this person to some people that are in the know, and vice versa. I can say to him, listen, this change is occurring in my life, what do you think? So before I interviewed for my current job that I have now, I went to talk to him about, what do you think? This is what I'm thinking, what do you think? And he goes, well, you remember this person, da 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 da. And so I think it's important to keep those relationships at your past place, and hopefully somebody there knows somebody who knows somebody directly, or either they know a third or fourth person in between that knows somebody at your new institution that will allow you to start making connections. And Yava mentioned this, you not only within your department, but you have to sometimes reach outside of your department.
So I tend to have a problem with cross-gender relationships as far as mentor-mentee relationships. I was wondering if you had any advice on like how to either get those started or maintain those kind of relationships as either like strictly professional mentor-mentee relationships or just like personal mentor-mentee relationships.
So I think for, and not all of, I don't know, we just had a connection. I can't really tell you what it was, but, when he came to the luncheon, we had a connection. I don't know if it was my southern nature, but his nickname for me, since he's been here is Mama Bear. And so, we have that connection. And I guess I grew up more as a tomboy anyway. So for me, it's, it's a little bit easier to do the cross-gender relationships. And I've been growing in that sense. I'm the senior faculty fellow in one of the residence halls, and I always have a male floor. So for me, it's easier. I think I struggle more with female to female relationships than I do male to female relationships. But I think you have to understand what topics are on the table and which topics are off the table in doing that relationship. And if you are a person, I had a friend of mine that every guy that would mentor her, she was like, he is so cute. I was like, I need you to stop looking at him as in terms of being cute and start thinking of him as a mentor. So she had to get past that point of looking for a date, right? And so really getting down to the meat of looking for a mentor. But that was the only type of male-female relationship she knew how to have. We're either dating or we're not dating. So once she got past that barrier, now most of her mentors, because if I look at my list of mentors, most of my mentors happen to be male. And I don't know if that's, because I'm in, in an environment in sciences where most of the folks that are in there are male. I don't know if I navigate it that way or if it's the inner tomboy in me coming out. I can't really tell you which one, but I think you have to figure out for yourself, what the boundaries are that are keeping you from, interacting with men, and start small, just by the guys that are your equals. So start talking to them and having conversations, and then, seeing where you have levels of comfort and discomfort and staying away from those topics. So I would say start small with your equals and then continue to move up the ladder. I don't know if that helps.
And I would agree with everything Dr. Evans said, and just add that, again, you don't have to get everything you need from one person.
Right.
So if you're uncomfortable on certain levels with a male mentor, then only get the professional things that you need from that mentor, and then find another female to give you everything else that you're looking for.
Good point.
This is the privilege of being the moderator, right? So just to kind of answer that question just a little bit, so I have a committee of all male members that I selected, but one of the things that helped, and Dr. Jones-Hall spoke on this, is finding an ally. Find an ally who is of equal stature to whomever you're working with, who can fight for you on your behalf, because I've had some people who are not on my committee, but I work very closely with them, who are males and who have said some things that made me feel like it was a little bit inappropriate. And because I've been a professional before, had I been in a different environment, I would have addressed it, but I knew it wasn't appropriate for me as a student. And so I told Dr. Esters, that's not acceptable to me, and he took care of it just like that. And I haven't had any more problems, but that's because he's my ally. And so sometimes, you have to get your foot in with the people who understand the mindsets of those people that you have difficulties with. And it's been very helpful for me, so that might be another avenue to try to deal with cross-gender relationships. Any other questions? I have one more. So for our mentees, I know we've talked about, kind of how you guys met and how you clicked and those kinds of things. But can you talk about some specific qualities that you look for in a mentor? Like sometimes I'll go to a conference and I see a person, they're really an awesome presenter. And it's not that I'm really interested in their subject matter, but I'm like, I'm interested in how they learned that craft. I want to go talk to that person right now. So can you guys talk about, some of those characteristics that jump out at you when you decide, hey, I'm looking for a mentor in this area? How do you identify those people? How do you identify the characteristics that you're looking for, and then kind of move forward on trying to form that relationship?
I mean, Doc said one of them. I mean, I like it when somebody's blunt. I got a mentor at Howard, and she literally cursed me out over Facebook chat the other week, and it was exactly what I needed. So I mean, I deal well with that. But just, I mean, I have a good team of mentors, and I mean, I go to different people for different things. So I mean, they're black faculty who I talk to, in addition to my research advisor. Just so I can try to get the full perspective, and just trying to get what I need from each individual person. Like, I mean, my research advisor is the department head of the math department, and I mean, it's hard a lot right now. I'm competing for his time with 60 faculty. Being in his office for a research meeting, and a distinguished named professor comes by and needs to talk to him, and I get put out. It gets a little hard, but I know that that's going to be to my benefit one day when I'm trying to, go up for tenure, because him having been the department head, he's going to be able to provide a lot of insight on how I can, best navigate, that process when I get there. So, I mean, I just try to, get what I need from different people.
For me, I try to identify things in myself that I would like to improve upon, and not necessarily just even skills, but not like science-related skills, but things like time management, or if Dr. Jones can, from my perspective, she can balance doing a lot of things at the same time and do them well. And so that's something that I respect, and that's something that I want to be able to do as well. So I look for somebody who has done a lot of things, or has a lot of things on their plate, but they're not stressed out and the hair's not falling out, and still a relatively balanced individual. So dealing with that and knowing how to set time limits and boundaries with other professional relationships that I have is something that I really want to work on. So that was something that I focused on when I was looking for somebody to mentor me.
Thank you guys so much. If we might have time for one more question. You go ahead.
I'm sorry, I have 2 questions.
Okay, that's fine. After those 2 questions, we'll bring Dr. Estes back up and close out, but please go ahead.
First question is, who is the best mentor? Or who can be the best mentor? And the second thing for me is, what are the benefits for being a mentor? So I think by myself, to be a mentor, what are the benefits for me? So who is the best mentor, and what are the benefits of being a mentor?
So I'll try to go real quick. Who's the best mentor? Someone who's willing, and someone who's going to be real with you as an individual. So someone who's not afraid to point out your shortcomings, to me, is the best mentor. So I always try to tell people, when you pick a mentor, don't pick a bobblehead, somebody who's going to always do this. So pick a person who's going to be real with you. And what was the second? You want to take the second question? What are the benefits?
The benefits for me as a mentor is personal growth, and just pride when I see one of my mentees excelling. So, and I also learn a lot. I learn things that I didn't know about myself and about the individual, and it makes me change my frame of reference on people in general. So I may have had a stubborn opinion about a certain thing, and then I find out from a mentee that this is something that might affect the reason why a person acts this way, then I consider that from now on when I'm dealing with other people. And so, and then just the biggest thing is the sense of pride that I get, and for that person when I see them succeed in what they were trying to do.
Well, thank you for your question. I think they might be here just a few minutes before they have to run off, so if you guys have a quick question. But I'm going to turn this back over to Dr. Esters. Thank you guys so much. Thank you to our panelists.
Yeah, let's get our panel. First of all, thank you, panel. This was a great exchange. And I appreciate you all taking time out today. And again, thank you all for coming out. One thing I do want to mention, and I've learned this as I continue to grow and develop as a mentor, and I tell my students all the time, is that at this stage of my career, I'm an associate professor, I don't look to do well. I try to make sure that they shine, because as a byproduct of them shining, I'm going to shine anyway. So it's not about me at all. I try to get them to do as much as they can, and the better they do, it attracts more students to me, which is happening now. And so the better they do in Monty, even Arminda, Tori, and Brittany, the better they do, that's going to flow over to me as well. So that's the approach I've taken. I want to make sure a couple things. One, there was a roster going around, so hopefully you put your name, email address, and contact information on so we can stay in touch. Number one. Number two, I believe Monty or someone passed out evaluation forms for you to complete, so you can do that. And then another thing I want to mention is that the MAP program, ladies and gentlemen, is not only, it's open to everyone across campus, number one, let me make that clear. But when we wrote this grant for this program, our focus was on females and underrepresented minorities, because I believe in them having a voice, and I think it's important for you all to be successful. And so I try to create a program that provides a space for you all to thrive. Because at the end of the day, I want everyone here to reach their full capacity, myself included. So please share with your peers, your colleagues about our events, which leads me to my next thing. I appreciate Brittany bringing this up. Our next event next month, every year we have what's called the Inviter Lecture Series. Next month we bring someone in, invite a speaker. Next month is Dr. Jennifer Cohen. She earned a doctorate degree in biochemistry, cellular and molecular biology from Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. She's passionate about increasing diversity in STEM fields, and Dr. Cohen has developed a successful model for creating community among minorities in biomedical research programs. She's a colleague and a friend of mine, and so she's giving a talk in search of building highly effective professional relationships, March 4th from 2 to 3:30 in Stewart. And then this is another event, Strategies to Continue to Lift as You Climb, on March 5th from 10:30 to noon. So you'll be, what's that? Next week. Yes, it's next week, and we'll be sending out email blasts about this event. Please come out and support us, support Dr. Cohen. Again, spread the word about the event. So hopefully you enjoyed today's event. I appreciate you all coming out, taking time out of your day. And again, we have a website, so please log on our website, give us feedback, and enjoy the rest of your day. And again, thanks for coming out.
Way to go, Mom.